And we're back.
Yes.
See how it goes this time.
Let me get everything squared around again. There we go.
Yep. All right. And here we were at. So I don't know how many people got to see the Schumann Resonance last time, because that's where it kind of kicked off. But we were saying that it used to be kind of like this part of the graph where it wasn't really in sync, but now it's moved on to all those four colors are pretty much in sync there across multiple spectra. And then this one here, since I'm a furry, I got to say this, you were calling the yellow the human frequency and the red the animal frequency, so the animal frequency and human frequency are intertwined, so we'll be living in Zootopia before long. Anyway, so that's all I got to say on that. All right, Crow. So what?
Well, let's get the.
All right. So we're caught up, and now we can do
let's
the prayer.
Do the prayer, and then we'll get right into it. So I'll go ahead and do it. For the Father of the people is with the creation by the Father. With the knowledge of the heaven is with the holy name of the Father. For the knowledge of the truth is for the people of the Father. For the kingdom of the Father is in the knowledge of the truth. For the knowledge of the Spirit is for the unity with the Father. For the freedom of the actions is with the knowledge by the truth. For the protection of the earth is for the life of the people. For the knowledge of the Father is with the protection for the people. For the truth of the people is with the path unto the heaven. For the teaching of the people is with the truth of the people. For the knowledge of the day is for the production and working and learning skills of the people. For the wrongs, sins against the knowledge is with the actions of the people. For the sins, temptations of the flesh, of the people is for the wrongs against our neighbor, for the knowledge of the people in the forgiveness of those wrong decisions. For the people of the debts are of the responsibility in the truth. For the people of the awareness are for the forgiving with the truth, for the knowledge of the people's leaders is with the teaching with the truth. For the evil of the people is for the lack of knowledge of truth. For the knowledge of the truth is for the freedom of the people against the evil of the darkness. For the people are with this agreement. Amen.
Amen.
And this little document, as weird as it might seem, is actually starting to come into play in this whole scamdemic drama that we're living through. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and I did a bit of a deep dive on this because I asked a question. I seen the directive come down from the White House and from Ottawa, and well, mandates are for the chattel. Certain federal workers, or what you think were federal workers, are exempted. And one of these departments was the Postal Service. And I'm scratching my head, thinking to myself, how is it that the Postal Service can be exempted? I mean, they're out in public every day and they're at everybody's house. Which actually brings me to something, a little sidebar. Thanksgiving was canceled, but Halloween is a go. And I asked a simple question like, well, why? What? That makes zero sense. Because in my mind, I thought to myself, okay, Thanksgiving, It's family, maybe a few friends gathering in the privacy of their home. Very tight-knit group, no outside interaction really. And Halloween, you've got kids and their parents walking up to the front door of everybody in the neighborhood. So how does it make sense to cancel Thanksgiving, but Halloween is a go? Same thing with the postal workers. How is it that somebody who earns a living at home, never leaves their house except for grocery shopping, and even then you could have that shit delivered to you, and how is it that they don't get an exemption, but the people that are walking door to door and lay their hands on every piece of mail that comes through your front door don't get do get the exemption? How does this shit make sense? And it really doesn't, until you take a deep dive into the Postal Service. And I was even surprised myself, because like everybody else out there, we all think that the Postal Service is a federal entity, right? It's,
Yeah, that's what you think until you look at the
yeah,
fine print. What does it say? Canada Post Corporation, right?
exactly.
It's a company, and United States Postal Service, it's not as obvious that it isn't an actual government entity, but I've looked into it, and it's not. It's a similar thing. It's contracted by the government, but it's not run by the government.
Exactly. The government actually has no say, which is kind of weird. So all these strikes with the postal workers, I've always heard like, the government's got to pay them more money, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, the government gives the Postal Service money, but that is in exchange for services that the Postal Service provides the government. And nothing is actually, and then the other funny thing is that kind of got me was, if I've got to send a legal document, like say to you or to anybody else in the country, it's not a real legal document unless I send it through registered mail. If I get like UPS to drop it off at your house, it's just a piece of paper. It means nothing. You could rip it up and throw it in the garbage. You don't even have to pay attention to it. Same thing if the postman delivers you a letter and it's not registered mail, you can still rip it up and ignore it. This is why companies send you registered mail. It's not so that they know that you got it. It's so that it's actually presented as a legal document, similar to like when you're handed a subpoena, you have to actually voluntarily take it. And, before that subpoena can become enforceable. And refusing a subpoena is actually not a way to not accept it. It doesn't work like that. It just has to be presented to you and placed in front of you. Basically, there's only a few things, like you got to identify who you identify yourself, you state your business, and then you can leave the subpoena on the table in front of the person, and they can say, well, I didn't accept it. It's like, no, you have been duly informed, and there are witnesses to this transaction. That's all that has to take place when a subpoena is being served. It's just that it has to be done in the proper way with witnesses, and it's done. Yeah, a subpoena is not supposed to be handed to somebody in private unless you are fairly certain that that person will voluntarily take it from you. I know it's fucked up, but these are little rules that exist and always have existed. This is called common law for people that don't understand. And common law actually does override legislative law. A lot of people don't understand that either, but yeah, it does. It goes back to the first Constitution. What was that document? The Magna Carta,
Magna
that's
Carta.
it. Yeah, it goes common law comes out of the Magna Carta. So if you follow common law, the Magna Carta is your constitution, essentially. And you have to follow that constitution if you want to live within common law. There's other things there. I've had long conversations about this. I don't get into it too much because the one thing that nobody can answer my question when it comes to common law is if you are in common law, can I do business using fiat currency in order to make a living in today's society? Because according to some people, that if you do business transacting in fiat currency, then you forego your rights in common law. You say you either got to be one or the other is what they tell me. So the only way that you can stay in common law and do business is if you trade in precious metals. You have to trade in a precious metal commodity, which it's like, well, that, it's kind of inconvenient because who does that? And I've asked about cryptocurrencies, if they fit the bill or what have you, but nobody can answer this. So I don't jump into common law, although it makes more sense to me. But we can still follow certain aspects of it and force the government to come along on these things, which is actually happening right now. So since these mandates have come in, yeah, all hell has broken loose. Tens of thousands of people in the streets in Italy, tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people in the streets of France. Farmers are dragging their manure spreaders to Paris and backing them up to like the taxation offices and such and dumping their load. Yeah. You imagine a big fucking load of cow shit right on the front steps in a major metropolitan city. So this is what the farmers are doing. I've seen the video. They are lined up to dump their load of shit.
Yeah, I'll do you one better on a video I saw many years ago, and this was a farmer in Europe somewhere protesting something, high taxes or I don't know what. He had, the kind that what's called a slinger. It slings the manure outside of the machine. He had parked this thing, or he was on the street in front of the town hall, and he had this thing running. He plastered it from one end to the other.
Wow. No, these guys, I mean, some of these guys were troopers. Like, I've never seen manure spreaders like these before, but there was one that basically the whole back of the wagon opened up, and then he started the conveyor and the paddles, and it just went, and it was just a big tunnel of shit going right up the steps of this taxation building. I never seen anything like it in my life. I was just like, wow.
Yeah. It's got the two vertical rotors, right? I've seen people run cars through that just because they'll do it.
So, yeah, and I mean, this thing, it's incredible because it emptied that wagon in like less than 3 minutes. And just like, and all you had was a big pile of shit in the middle of the street. And then another tractor pulls up after that, and he had one of those tip ups. He tipped up that, and I don't know what the hell he dumped out, but it didn't look healthy at all. It was some kind of pinkish white shit, and I was just like, I wouldn't even want to know what that smelled like. That would probably smelled like death. I mean, I grew up on a farm with livestock, and yeah, those smells are not pleasant. The horses are. I didn't mind the horses, but like the pigs, the cows, The chickens sometimes could be the worst, especially if the ventilation is not right. It's like you could just smell the ammonia right in the air. I mean, it practically arrests your breathing when you first walk in. But anyways, you've got that going on. Then you have protests going on in Sweden and Holland, and they're just like out in the streets in thousands. The only country right now that doesn't have civil unrest is Norway, because they've just dropped all COVID mandates. They just dropped it all. They're just like, we ain't doing shit anymore. We're done with this. And so all restrictions are lifted and things are moving in and out of the country smoothly. Meanwhile, we've got a huge supply chain issue looming on the horizon. I mean, well, it's already here. It's like in my business, like I ordered parts weeks ago, and in some cases months, over a month ago, and I get back letters this week telling me that my shit ain't coming for a couple of more weeks yet. So I've got customers with equipment sitting in their facility, not operating because I need a motor for one thing. I need a pressure switch for something, for a pressure vessel. And they can't operate this pressure vessel without this switch. Switch is like that big. I kid you not. And just an electrical current goes through it. That's all it's for. But that switch shuts off the electrical current, which turns off the gas valve if the pressure vessel starts to overpressure. Without this little valve, they could have an explosion. So I can't, in good conscience, put a plug in that hole and say, fire up, boys. I mean, even though that pressure vessel has not tripped in how many years they've used this thing, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to blow it up. So I'm just like, sorry, there's a red tag on their machine and the power is cut and the gas is shut off. And this has been over a month.
Yeah, I found it interesting. Last spring, we bought a tractor from the United States, and we thought, well, this is, I looked at a whole bunch of them in both Canada and the United States, and this seemed like the best features, the best price, the best number of hours, the best condition, and all that. And I thought, well, how am I going to get it here during COVID? And then I realized, okay, essential travel. So I looked it up. The over-the-road truckers, they, it's no problem. I just got the permit, called the carrier who works on both sides of the borders, and we got this thing shipped in reasonable time. So I thought basically it's interesting who's allowed to move and who isn't is the point I wanted to make there. Who can go and who isn't supposed to,
and
who rolls and who's
and
stopped.
It just seems like anybody that it's all pretty random now. They're just all over the place with this. It's like their whole plan is falling apart by the day. So you got the protests happening everywhere, and then this week, this I thought was beautiful. I mean, it was just like the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my life. It's like, wow. Now, the reason why it was beautiful is because most of the time when these government officials lie through their teeth, it can be subjective. I mean, I've got this crazy thing that I can see both sides of an argument or any situation. Doesn't matter what it is. I see both sides. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm very empathetic and I can understand, okay, your point of view. I can understand this person's point of view. Let's see if we can find something in the middle to work it out. So I can see both points of view. So whenever I see these government officials lying, I can see how it could be truthful, but at the same time, I know that's bullshit. but I can see how it could somehow be weaved in to be the truth. It's like following universal law, right? You got for every lie, I think every 3 lies they tell us, they got to tell us one truth. So they've got to weave those truths in amongst their bullshit. This is why, you know, we're not completely in the dark about things.
And I got a example that perfectly explains this from an episode of Sequest, actually. And a character said it beautifully. Easiest way to lie is just tell the truth, except the part that matters.
And that's what they do. And I can see that shit. But again, nobody else does. So what are you supposed to do, right? And but this week was beautiful. The health minister in Alberta comes out and says that a 14-year-old boy died of COVID. And then, this is the part that became beautiful. The boy's sister was pissed. She got to Twitter because she's a social media maniac and she has followers. She tweeted out, "I am the sister of the 14-year-old boy that died of COVID. He did not die of COVID. He was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer in January. He succumbed to the brain cancer." And then you watch the health minister try to walk it back. And all people did was just post the video. That's not what you said, you dumb bitch. You said this shit with a straight face. And then they got other doctors to come out to try to, like, just basically it was just like, you know, fucking, what do you call it? PR control. They're just trying to fucking clean up their own mess, but every time they did something, it just made the situation worse. And so that was a beautiful thing. And then the other thing that happened, and this was also beautiful, is the press secretary down in the United States, that redhead with no soul. She comes out and she starts, and I'm just like, even I, a Canadian, sitting up here in Saskatchewan, know how the Constitution of the United States reads. And I'm listening to this dumb bitch, and I'm just like, you haven't read the Constitution at all. No, that's not how shit works down there. It might be how things work up here, but actually it works up here similar to the United States, except our premiers have no balls, or they just haven't taken the time out to do the proper research about the documents that were signed during Confederation and the things that the provinces gave to Ottawa for authority and things that the provinces kept for themselves. That line is really blurred, and the premiers are not calling the prime minister on it. So the prime minister is making dictates from Ottawa like he's a little dictator, and the provinces are going along with it. But here's the kick. The provinces don't have to go along with it because the provinces have a certain amount of autonomy. Because when during Confederation, none of the provinces wanted to join a country called Canada. They thought it was the most ridiculous idea ever. And the reason why they thought it was ridiculous is because, especially out here in the West, they understood at the time that we have different issues than they have in the Maritimes. So it's like we make our money growing grain and doing some mining and what have you. They make money in the Maritimes by fishing and forestry. How is it that, so Saskatchewan at that time, they didn't want to be given dictates from Ottawa that would pertain to the east, but would be devastating to the west, which is what's happening now. So the provinces kept some autonomy so that they wouldn't end up in that situation to where Ottawa says, well, it's working in the east, so it has to work in the west. No, it doesn't work like that. I mean, the provinces were happy just to be autonomous and be their own little country with their own currency and their own way of doing things. But, once they were made certain guarantees, they were like, okay, we'll join this thing called Canada. But it really hasn't worked out as well as the provinces has hoped, because, I mean, it is easier to trade between Canada and the United States than it is to trade between Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
Yeah, a question that I've had is how much autonomy do the provinces have, and how much power, authority, whatever, do they have to ignore certain things from Ottawa? Like, what kind of trouble can they get in for not doing stuff like sending Ottawa certain amounts of money or something if they think it isn't entitled to it, or something? I mean, if it's written down on a piece of paper, it's entitled to it. But yeah, if they read all these founding documents and stick to what they do, or even if they overstep, what actual recourse does Ottawa have to punish, say, Saskatchewan, if in fact we failed to do something that the Constitution requires us to do?
Outside of bureaucracy, nothing. It's not like they can send the army in. They can't send in the RCMP because that's outside their purview. I mean, RCMP investigates crimes. They don't do enforcement like that. I mean, the only enforcement that the RCMP are really authorized to do is traffic enforcement. And, they have that mandate, but they only have that mandate with the permission of the provinces. So the RCMP technically can't pull you over on a Saskatchewan highway. But because they do have permission from the government of Saskatchewan to enforce traffic laws, then they can pull you over. But Saskatchewan can pull that anytime they want, and the only thing the RCMP would be left to do would be to investigate crime. That's it. A crime happens, they're obligated to investigate it. That's their job. And also to protect the interests of the crown. So that's obviously a conflict of interest between the people, because what the crown has for an interest might be in conflict with the people that actually live on the land. So this is why I don't trust RCMP, is because in the end, their oath is to the crown and not to the actual people living in the province that they are serving. So to me, that's a problem. That's a huge problem when their oath is to the crown or to the queen and her lieutenants and her heirs and all the like of that bullshit. So if you're like connected to the crown, then technically the RCMP is obligated to protect you and your interests, so long as they line up with the crown. So that means that if the RCMP are protecting the prime minister, it means that the prime minister is in line with the crown's agenda. Scary shit when you start thinking about it. I like breaking things down to their basics, and once you break it down to their basics, you start to look at people's behavior, and it's just like, that's bad. That's like not good for anybody. People overcomplicate things, and that'll be something that we'll have to figure out. Say, like, even right now, I was talking with a friend, and we were talking about the judicial system because of what just happened in Alberta with that pastor that got sentenced What is the most ridiculous fucking sentence I ever heard in my life? It sounds like something that belongs in the Soviet Union, in the era of Soviet Union. I mean, basically, they put him on probation, standard probation. Some of us have been there. Check in, be off the streets at a certain time, be of good behavior, and do community service. Okay. Then the judge added in that every time he talks or goes and does a speaking event, he has to display a disclaimer that says that his views are not in line with the government. That's pretty 1984. Then for the community service part, this is the part where I just like, wow. The judge was really specific about this. His community service cannot involve any type of church work. Wow. So what are they going to do? Make them work in an abortion clinic? Unfucking believable, these people. Basically, it's not, that's only a few things. The list is long, by the way. I mean, I think it was a document that was handed down. It's like 20-page document, I think.
What was he on trial for? I don't remember if I heard this.
He was doing ministry work during COVID lockdown. He wouldn't stop doing his ministry work. Yes.
Okay.
So they locked him down like the Roman Empire did with the apostles. Exact same thing. And the part that's blowing my mind is like, nobody is like stepping up for this guy. It's like, I mean, people are, but you would think that a lot of independent churches would be like up in arms. So again, this whole fucking thing is separating the wheat from the chaff. I mean, now we know who the real pastors are and who the pretenders are, because telling a pastor that he cannot minister, that goes against everything the Son of Man taught us and his apostles. Everything. The Son of Man was all about going out and just telling people about the kingdom and ministering to the sick, ministering to the poor. This is what the Son of Man taught us. And then to have a federal judge, tell a man that he cannot do that anymore, he might as well just told the pastor that he wasn't allowed to pray anymore. It's the same fucking thing. Just, 20 extra pages of verbiage. That's all it is. I mean, he might as well just said, you're not allowed to worship your God anymore, slam. Except he could have said it in a couple of sentences, but instead they said it in a 20-page document. Same fucking thing, only longer. So, yeah, that's where that's at. And obviously the pastor was like, obviously I'm going to jail. He's like, I'm not following these mandates that the judge handed down. It's like, it's all bullshit. He said, I'll be in jail within the week. He's accepted that. He knows that he will be. And that's just no different than a lot of the apostles. I mean, the Rome.
One little comment on the thing that said he had to display the disclaimer that he didn't agree. I mean, I don't know if it gave like specific wording, but it did. Well, that's too bad, because I would have had it be the government doesn't agree.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I'd be like, yeah.
But I suppose if they are as detailed and in depth as you say, they probably would have told him exactly what text they would make him.
Yeah, they did. Oh yeah, they basically they want to micromanage his altruism work, if I can pronounce that properly. And yeah, that's basically what they've done. They've stifled his freedom of religion, is what they've done. And people need to know this. And Yeah, and of course, the big one. This one was my other favorite one. This is where the media was caught blatantly lying.
I'm going to grab
Uh,
my pen. I dropped it.
so
Okay, here we go.
yeah,
I hope you can still hear me because I can just move around with my microphone. All right,
the
here we go.
the other
Go ahead.
one was Southwest Airlines. About 2,000 of their employees striked, and most of them were pilots, so not and stewardess, so not exactly the type of people that you can replace. And and this is how the media spun it. All these all these flights are being canceled, but they're only being canceled with this one company. And also at an airport too. The flight control workers also walked off because of mandates, and the mainstream media spun it as bad weather. 500 flights are canceled because of bad weather in Florida. Here's the best part. This is where they really must think that we are stupid, because I've got the Weather Network app on my phone, and it allows me to type in any city in the world and get real-time data on the weather. And I did. And Jacksonville, Florida was clear skies and sunshine. And I'm like, okay, I've got a CNN article sitting here in front of me with a timestamp and a date. I've got the Weather Network with a timestamp and a date. There's about a 3-hour difference between these two things. And these two things do not line up. You mean to tell me that a weather system that grounded 300 flights moved out of Florida within 5 hours? Probably not. Unfortunately, the Weather Network doesn't have like a time machine to tell you what the weather was at 9 a.m. It'll only tell you what it is now and in the future. So I would have liked to have seen that, but I just can't imagine a weather system in Florida moving through that fast.
There's online, not an almanac, but the reverse
Oh
part
yeah,
of it. I think
reverse
that
weather
you can
search.
get reverse weather search. What was the weather here at what time?
Yeah, I guess I could have done that, but I guess I was a lot of times when I'm like absorbing this information, I'm usually pulled over on the side of the road, or I'm sitting somewhere waiting to go into my next job. So everything that I like, all this shit that I do is like that time between jobs, or when I've pulled over on the side of the road because I've just looked at a flat highway for an hour straight and I want to just kind of pull over on the side of the road and just blink like 20 times. So, uh, although,
Yeah, no, not that it matters exactly, because yeah. So no, I mean, it matters that we tell about this, but that it doesn't matter that you went back and looked at it, because um, I've been saying for a while now that the internet will be one of the tools, a big one, but one of the tools which will allow for the long-term empowerment of the people.
mm-hmm.
And every time that somebody says, "Oh, we're, whatever," somebody says something negative, and usually it's on the internet because it's on one of my chat groups or a web page I'm looking at, the news feed from users' journals, and I'm like, what? Why would you say that? Because the internet allows such real-time communication, or real-time communication between the people, between the government officials and the people, most notably Donald Trump and his Twitter, and that some of these people are possibly through no fault of their own, such negative scaredy cats. I want a softer term, but I can't come up with one.
My rule of thumb.
But yeah, no, it's
my rule of thumb for
yeah,
social media, and I think that this is something that everybody should just follow because it just makes sense. I won't say something on social media that I would not say sitting at a table at the pub up the street.
good advice.
Because, I mean, if you're like, if you're not willing to, like, I mean, would you call somebody a faggot when you're sitting in a bar across the table from you, that like a stranger that you don't know? Or would you find a different way to express your discontent with that person? I'll guarantee you, if that person is sitting in front of you, you're probably going to find a more tactful way to express your discontent. I mean, unless you're just stupid and don't mind being hit, in which case, fill your boots. I mean, I've sat in bars with people like that too, and they're always shocked to be like, you know, when I'm sitting there right beside him, and I'm just like, you know what? I brought this guy here. He is my friend, but I'm not responsible for the shit that comes out of his mouth. I just want to make that very clear right now. And then they learn, and he's like, well, you wouldn't back me up? I was like, seriously? I was like, you're creating this pool of shit yourself, and you expect me to take part of the responsibility? I don't think so. I mean, if you get in trouble and through no fault of your own, like, I don't know, like maybe a bully's coming up and bugging you, buddy, I've got your back 100%. I mean, whoever's bullying you, I'm running up behind them and they're getting a knee in the small of their back. And the next thing that they're going to be seeing is the pavement coming up to their face, because that I don't tolerate. But if you want to sit there in front of a bully and call him a chicken or a turkey, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to get what you're going to get. I'm not responsible. But, you know, but I'll always have somebody's back who's fucking through no fault of their own, or they don't have the ability to fight back or what have you. I'm on it. But yeah, don't ask me to come to your defense when you're stupid, though. That ain't happening.
I finally figured out what my response to some of these people, like my friend who was hostile in that one chat to my, you know, talking about positive thinking and stuff. He was hostile to that, and a few other people that I've talked to in person and gatherings and stuff, and you know, I don't say things that time because I was also learning about that person's background. They've been through a ton of crap, but in general, and certain people want us to sacrifice our liberty on the altar of their ego. And I will say right now that I have had my fill of false gods. Thank you very much.
It's, you know what, that I don't think it could be, you could have said it any better. It's like, you know, and that's what's going on. That is what has been going on in society for the last 30 years, is that we are expected to give up the things that we believe and our principles in favor of some celebrity's ego because they told us so. It's like I have never had a problem with the gay community or the queer community or whatever, LGBTQ, whatever, alphabet community. I've never had a problem. In fact, when I was in Vegas, I think I might have told this story. The best time I had when I was in Las Vegas was the night that we ended up at a trans bar with all of these what do you call them? Transvest, but no, the other word, drag. Oh
Transgender
yeah,
drag, okay, yeah, you went to a
drag
drag
show,
show,
drag
right?
bar, and I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
I was like, these people were fun. They were
Yes.
vibrant, they were
Hmm.
exuberant,
Yes.
and I'll tell you, I mean, I wasn't interested in any of them, well, sexually at all. I mean, it's just not my thing, but I was fascinated by the amount of detail and care they put in to their whole makeup and character that they had created. I mean, same
Yes.
thing in your world. It's like I am fascinated by the amount of diligence that goes into some of the costumes. That's just like it blows my mind because most of the time, even in the furry community, people are building these things themselves. They've taken the time out
Hmm.
to
Yes.
learn the craft. They'll go and watch a YouTube video or find someone that's doing it in their neighborhood. They'll show them, and they might pay somebody to make one their first mask, but usually the second one they build themselves. And it's just like that's that's passion right there. That's passion. And for some odd reason, I have no idea why, I respect people's passion for things. It's like, I don't know, when I see how passionate somebody is about something, my respect for them goes up. I don't know. I think that's the way Michael is too. And because it's a passion and you're following it and you don't give a fuck. And it's like, wow. I mean, that's yeah, just the detail. And I spent a lot of time like just asking them questions. And they loved me for it. I mean, they had the best time. I mean, I just asked them questions, and they're telling me a little bit about their history, what they went through in school, how they developed, how they came out in their characters. Like, wow. I mean, a lot of times what I found out in the drag community, their characters that they create, their personas that they created were based on like people that were their heroes. And it didn't matter. Gender was not an issue. I mean, you know, it's, I mean, some of them had heroes that were male, some of them had heroes that were female, and they just blended that all together into their persona. And that was what they felt they were on the inside. But one even like she was pretty funny, and she made me laugh because she was like, I can't go to work looking like this. She says, I'm an accountant for a very large corporation. She says, I can't walk in like this. She says, I can't even walk in being comfortable as the opposite sex. But in that bar, it was her. At the corporate building where she worked, it was him, Mister this, Mister that. But when she was out and in her element, she was Ms. And I was like, wow. I was like, you got that compartmentalized pretty good. And yeah, so
And one little thing, not only the detail, because I know a couple of these people, and I've seen the costumes up close. I've seen the
mm,
performances, and two things, and I'll say the more profound one first. Well, no, I'll end with that. There's one performer who did a cartwheel in high heels, and not just little ones, the stiletto heels. That was impressive. But the thing, um, this performer did a duo performance, and they started out with words, I guess I couldn't see them all, but they were, I think, negative words written on them, and they washed the words off of each other. And this one of the people is a very good friend of mine, and somehow I've seen them perform other times, and it I saw it, but I also felt it. If you know what I mean. Yeah, that was something else when I saw that performance. I'll probably remember that for the rest of my life.
That's rune magic, by the way. And I've found it super effective. Like for magic, practical magic to use, rune magic is by far the best. Like the tattoos that I have on my body are well thought out tattoos. And my daughter did the same when she got her tattoos. My son, not so much. He just got what he liked, which I guess is okay. But yeah, a well thought out rune is a very powerful thing. It can change your life. I used to do it, like what you described. I used to do it when I was in university because, well, I don't consider myself a very smart guy. I mean, other people do, but I've just been like, I just work hard, or at least study hard. I didn't consider myself smart because I worked for all of that shit. And so what I used to do is I used to write mathematical expressions on my body, but not to cheat or anything like that, because it was down my legs, on my torso, like all under my clothing. Everything I do is always under my clothing because it's nobody's business but my own what I'm doing with it for myself, to for my own work. I mean, all you got, you know, the only thing that should be of interest to anybody is the fruits of that work. I guess, you know, am I gonna, you know, am I a nicer person today than I was yesterday? Probably. In some ways. In a lot of ways, no, because I put up with less bullshit now than I did when I was younger. But anyways, I used to do that, and also little like sayings, and I wrote it all out in English because that's my language and that's what I understand. But you can, and so it's just as powerful no matter what symbols you are using. That is a powerful, powerful magical tool to use. But, and I think the reason why it's a powerful tool is because you are planning out what you're going to write, and you've also might have written it out so that you can rewrite it on your body somewheres. And so you've actually taken steps to create a, I don't know, a program app that's going to be executed as you go through your daily tasks. And that basically it's drawing in the energies that you want to be drawn into you. And yeah, I found that to be the most effective because you've got to go through certain steps, and those steps are logical, at least they are to me, more logical than setting out a salt circle and lighting candles, and none of that shit makes sense to me. But I understand the mechanics of magic and how I can make it work in a mechanical way. And it basically involves using your mind to come up with the idea, your physical body to bring that idea into existence, and then accepting it into your spirit, and then it becomes magic. You just incorporate those three things into anything. That's magic basics. That's all you got to do.
That's what from listening to Kevin Trudeau's program, Your Wish is Your Command, he said to write a dream book, write several things that are your goals. And I've been doing that on and off. I would write on a slip of paper 10 or 15 different things. And when I was doing it every day, I should probably restart, like get up in the morning and rewrite the list each morning. But it was interesting to watch it evolve. The words would change slightly, and some things, new things would come on, and old things I didn't feel the need to write anymore, and certain concepts would be three of them would be combined into one that meant something different, and that list evolved slowly and steadily, let us say.
Now you see that type of magic, that's the type of magic that will work within you. That's magic that is like for doing inner work. You're basically only using 2 of the 3 pillars. And so basically you're using thought and then bringing it into physical reality. But moving it to like a spirit, which is more like a integration of memory, like pulling actual information from the ether. That's what is meant by the spirit aspect of the magic pillars. Is that just in case, like, I think people think that it's spirit is be like, oh, it's because I pray. No, it's the spirit part of it is actually more complex than the other first 2. The third one is, I've got it visualized in my mind, but it's like pulling dark matter out of the universe and transforming it into regular matter that we can use within this time and space realm. That's the third pillar of magic. So when you write like the affirmations, you're working with just the mind and physical. You haven't done the creation part. The creation part is taking the dark matter and turning it into light matter that can be transformed into what you want. And that was the third one that I did when I was in university, which was actually get the information so that I could absorb it and pass my exams and become an engineer, and bringing those concepts into reality. I hope I explained that in a simple way. So when you're doing your affirmations, you take one piece out of what you wrote down and you put it and you work it in real time, in reality, and you use it to create something new in the environment that you're in. And then that will solidify your magic, is because that's the goal of all magic, is to create something new in the universe. If you're not looking to create something new in the universe with your magic, all you're going to do is create karma, because you're robbing from one system to fill another system. And if one thing can be true about this physical reality that we exist in, a vacuum will always be filled, regardless. If it does not fill, it will implode upon itself like a collapsing oil barrel. But yeah, a vacuum always wants to be filled. That is basically natural law. And it works at all aspects. This is why in war, it's never a good idea to take out the leader. I always laugh at people. It's like, we'll take out the leader. That'll stop them. Are you joking? We'll just have a new leader in 3 days. No, You want to know who you want to take out in a war? You want to take out the number 2 guy. You want to take out the number 3 guy. You want to take out the number 4 guy, so that you can allow the leader to start making mistakes and destroy himself. So minimal assets. You took out 3 guys. That's like 3 bullets. If a bullet was $1 a piece, it cost you $3 plus whatever it took to get your guy on the ground to do the job. That's all it took. That's your economic side of it. And now the rest of the time, you're sitting back, you're reorganizing your camp, getting yourself ready, and making sure that your supply lines are good, and fastening up all that shit. Meanwhile, this guy over here, he's lost his 3 best advisors. Now he's left with the stupid people that are going to give him stupid advice. And that stupid advice will eventually destroy his kingdom, and you're going to walk right in with your guys, and you've already secured your supply line from your capital, so you've already got a highway and a railroad built. All you got to do is now put in the last 10 kilometers to the next capital, and it's like, this place is mine now.
And a corollary to that, I read in a story many, many years ago, there was this bad guy who was super charismatic and everybody loved him. Like, you know, a direct assault would never have worked. So, and I don't remember the details now, but basically his enemy waited, and something happened, and he got, I don't know, it was a fantasy story, and he kept monsters in his dungeon or something, and one of them killed him. And I forget now whether it was an accident or whether the enemy helped that happen, but it was yeah. That's the other way. That's the other way.
Well, I mean, sometimes, that's what Michael's doing right now. Michael has always said evil will always carries the seeds of its own destruction. And what Michael is doing now is he's basically he's put his foot on the gas pedal. I mean, the deep state still has the steering wheel, but Michael has put his foot on the accelerator, and there's nothing that they can do about it. I mean, they can't slam on the brakes. They already tried slamming on the brakes way back just before the pandemic. They didn't want the pandemic to be triggered in February. They wanted the pandemic to be triggered in April. Now, you would think to yourself, oh, what the fuck? It's 2-month difference. What big deal is that? Yeah, you're not paying attention. That 2-month difference made all the difference, is what it did. It's such a small thing. But that 2 months has accelerated things exponentially, because what happened at first is that, okay, had the pandemic, boom. They criticized Trump for the lockdowns. They didn't want the lockdowns. They wanted things to go along for at least until March, but Trump locked it down. He says, fuck you guys. So he locked it down. Boom. That saved, I don't know how many lives it saved. Not even sure if it saved any lives. Critics will say differently, but critics will be critics. So that wasn't supposed to happen until April, because that would have been enough to disrupt supply chains, so that by the time we started getting into the fall, things were going to start to get dicey. But because Trump pulled it 2 months early, the whole world had to pull it 2 months early. None of the supply chain stuff was set up to be triggered. The supply chain stuff didn't get around to being triggered until a year later, April of the following year. And then on top of that, they also had to drag out this pandemic all the way to the election. So that was an extra 2 months that they weren't counting on, because what ended up happening is that people got this long period of experience a pandemic under Trump, and they're experiencing the pandemic under Biden. It's been a lot shorter period of a time, and Biden has really fucked things up. Like, I'm not sure if it was him personally, but not paying attention to the details, yeah, he fucked things up. So there's a lot of shit going on that's fucked up. And all the chickens are now coming home to roost. But because you would think that because it was pulled 2 months early, we should be 2 months late on these things. But what I've noticed is that because of that 2 months early thing, things ended up being accelerated later. It was a cascade effect of acceleration, so that by the time we got to December, things were like changing so fast that nobody was being able to keep up. And now it's progressively worse, way worse. I mean, we found out this week, okay, that ship that went sideways in the Suez Canal in April, that should have put everybody involved in the supply chain on high alert. I had a friend of mine tell me, who works in the supply chain industry, and she did not want to be around in 6 months from April. She said, it's going to be a fucking shit show in Canada. She said, guaranteed. Well, it's 6 months later and the shit show has begun. We've got ships parked off the coast of British Columbia and California, and we got ships parked off the Maritimes, New York. But Florida is saying that they're taking ships. Now, the reason why these ships are parked offshore is because which provinces and which states have the harshest lockdowns? British Columbia, Washington, Idaho, Illinois. Illinois, I think, is below Washington, or Idaho. I don't know, one of them. Anyways, they got a state there below. Oh, Oregon, yeah. Oh, no, Oregon.
Oregon, Washington,
yeah.
California.
So you got all these states going down across there.
Or Washington, yeah. Oregon, California, actually.
No, you're right.
Yeah, there we go.
And
yep.
These states have the harshest lockdown measures. So the reason why these ships are sitting offshore is because they can't come in because they had one COVID case on board. And so they either got to sit out there for 2 weeks in quarantine or head back to their port of origin. You know how much it's costing that ship to do circles in the Pacific Ocean? A lot. Yeah. A lot. And yeah. And this is causing supply chain issues. I mean, and now, but over in the East, you got a problem. Because in the East, well, the Maritimes, Maine, New York, and whatever one there below New York, are all doing their lockdown thing. Florida has wide open ports, and they're inviting ships to come in. So don't worry about, we'll get your shit out. So the ships are rerouting to Florida. Texas has said the same thing. So now they're all rerouting to the Gulf of Mexico as well. And California also at the same time has had a net population growth, a negative population growth. They shrunk by like 16%. They've for
the first time in decades.
They've lost their population. So that's a problem too. And now this whole system is collapsing, and it's one thing right after the other. So the defund the police thing that everybody thought was a good idea wasn't. So now the police, they're fighting back on the mandate. And you've got the mayor of Chicago threatening. Chicago, San Francisco, wherever that crazy black mayor is with the bug eyes.
In California.
Yeah, I think San Francisco. Anyway, she's she's lost her fucking mind. So at first she was like, the police aren't going to be allowed to work unless they get their medical procedure done. And the police are like, no, that ain't happening. And so she's like, well, then you're all getting laid off. Okay. So the police, to make sure that they didn't break their contract, they all showed up for work, waited to be told to go home. Yeah, they weren't told to go home. So now this stupid mayor, after like a week of threats and bullying and everything, has now, with all of her deadlines and this is what's going to happen on this date and shit like this. Now, with all of that being said all over the news, now she has decided that it would be in the best interest of the city if they have a more flexible schedule for these mandates. I've never heard such foolishness in all my life.
All Michael had to do was pour out the gift of discernment and wait.
That's all he's doing. It's waiting. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking for those of us that are not enthusiastic about getting a questionable medical procedure. It's like, so it's been stressful, to say the least.
So I'll tell you, let me tell you kind of how it is for me. I went on Sunday to a restaurant with some friends, and I did not know that the QR code mandate was in place. So they said, and I didn't bring any of my stuff. I didn't have the app on my phone. I didn't have the card, whatever. And they said, I'm sorry, you'll have to leave. So I went to the co-op store next door, and I got some kielbasa and a bag of chips. And then the two friends, we went to the guy's house and hung out for a while. And about an hour or so later, so I got to hang out with the friends. And then I do have friends who are on both sides. Some of them are super pro, it's like, we got to get 100% vaccinated so we can, quote, go back to normal, whatever. And I do have a couple of friends who are, they are concerned about the shots. One guy I don't think has got, he has to figure out, one of them got it to keep his job. The other one has not yet gotten it, and I don't know how he's going to, I don't know. So he's okay so far for various reasons, but what I think I'm going to do this weekend is I'll get the app and get things set up, but I'll leave it to my discretion whether I go ahead. It's like, I thought that if apartheid or whatever ever comes back in North America, I just go use the color.
Well, that's basically where it's heading.
So it's like yeah, I'm vaccinated. I've got my documents. No, I'm not going to let you see them because I'm a jerk that way, and I'll just leave or not pay.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. So I've been able to walk whichever side of the line. You know that book Black Like Me?
No.
The guy got a treatment to make himself like he actually,
I know this,
made himself appear the same but have the skin color of a Negro. And he went down the South and did anyway. So at later on in the procedure, when it was starting to wear off, he would put some shoe polish on his hands and face so he could walk as a black man, and then he would go and wash it off and then go back to the same place as a white man, and then he would document the difference in the treatment. So I'm in that position where I can do that because I'm vaccinated and I can prove it, but I don't have it. I
But
currently
the
don't have
thing
to.
is that you only have the one, so technically they don't consider you vaxxed.
No, I have two.
Oh,
I have two doses of
oh,
Pfizer.
okay.
I'm what's considered 100% vaccinated as of this time. Now I don't know. There's talk about the
Yeah,
boosters
which
and
is
stuff,
just more
right?
bullshit. It's like, well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like I tell people, it's like it is logistically impossible to create as many viruses as they say that they have within the amount of time that they say that they have. I did the calculations. I shit you not. They would have to produce over 13,000 vials every minute of every day for 1 year. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I think it's like 15,500 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
13,000. That's over a fucking, yeah, that's just ridiculous. And, and I calculated that out. And I think that by the time you got to the end number, I think we were looking at over 1,000 factories having to be built in order to accommodate. Well, there aren't 1,000 factories in the world. I'm sorry to say. There's like, a dozen tops. So that's capable of mixing and distributing this vaccine. So yeah, no, it's impossible. So over half of the vaccines are saline solution. And this is why all the extra shots is because you got to gamble those odds. So if it was 50-50, you had a 50-50 shot the first time that you went and got vaccinated that it would be the real thing. The second time you go, it's a 75-25%. So now the odds are against you. So there's a 25% chance that you might get saline. And then the third time, those odds go down again. And then the fourth time, they go down again until they get to the fifth or sixth, where it's almost 100% that they've gotten everybody. At least they would hope. But again, still more logistics. And this is not flying with people anymore. This is just like, no, this is getting ridiculous. And now the new push is for the flu. I'm just, it's
That's
like,
what I
oh
mean.
my
Yeah, yeah.
God.
Get your flu
It's like,
shot.
okay, so now you want me to take a
My
COVID shot
God.
along with a flu shot? What kind of fucked up cocktail is that in my body? It's like, are you people serious? I mean, let's just throw, 100 years of biology out the window and let's just wing it from here on in. It's like, wow. And then they're like, oh, but the mRNA, DNA viruses are fucking different. And it's like, that's actually the scary part. That's not your selling point at all. It's like you just developed this shit, and past research hasn't been very promising. And we have zero research on what's going on this stuff now. So it's like, none of this shit makes any sense to me. I mean, I keep pointing out to people, it's like, when they were testing these mRNA, DNA bullshit things, I said all the ferrets died when exposed to a wild version of the virus that they were supposed to be vaccinated against. And here's the kick in the nuts. The wild version is the weakest version of the virus. So what the fuck? Right? So none of this shit makes any fucking sense whatsoever to me. It's like all I keep telling to people is just please, please, just make it make sense. I would be very happy to comply with whatever needs to be done, but just please make it make fucking sense. That's all I ask.
My favorite is, and I don't know, in restaurants, I think they still want you, they have to, you have to have the code to be served. And don't they still want you to wear a mask into the restaurant? Then you can take it off and sit at your table
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah.
Now I have not. I cannot lampoon this yet because I have not personally seen it or experienced it. But the day it becomes necessary to show a QR code and wear a mask inside some kind of store like a shopping center.
It's already here. It's
Yeah.
already,
Hey Q, pass the popcorn, please.
it's already here. It's what's in Ontario and Quebec. This is why fucking people are by the thousands in the
Okay.
street, because it's like, okay, I'm showing my vaccination code with this mask still on my face. It's like, it's not even making sense to even the dumbest fucks amongst our society.
Yep.
And there's a lot of dumb fucks. It's like, unbelievably. It's like, wow. So, oh, I got to tell you this story. It's fucking hilarious. So I get a call to go to a facility to do a repair. These people have been backed right up against it. They've already, I mean, they're telling me the story that, oh, we already had a technician here. He couldn't do anything with it. We heard, at least the last time you were here, you got this piece of machinery going for us. Can you come back and do it? And I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. I didn't really want to go because it's out of town. It means I got to get up early. I got to drive. Well, I'm up early anyways, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of driving to Moose Jaw. It's just not my, most of my work is actually east, and I don't know. I like driving east. It's just a preference, I guess. So anyway, so I'm just like, okay, you're taking me way outside my territory, but okay, I'll come over and I'll deal with it. So I get to the facility, and it's a care facility. And I go in, and at the nurse's station, I'm like, yeah, I'm here to take a look at your clothes washer. And yeah, you guys have no idea how important a clothes washer is in a care facility. And so, yeah, they're like, oh my God, thank God you're here. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, well, I need to know your status. I was like, what do you mean, my status? I was like, my Facebook status? I'm being a dick. And she's like, no, 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 no. Your vaccination status. I'm like, wait a second. I said, that's private medical information. You can't be asking me that shit. Well, she says, I have to. You still shouldn't be asking that. That's private medical information. I was like, you might as well be asking me about my chlamydia or my gonorrhea. How's my herpes lately? I said, you do realize hepatitis is further up on the list of what's killing people right now than COVID. So I said, no. I said, I'm not going to tell you my personal medical information. But I said, I'll answer any other questions that you have. I said, that are not personally evasive. She looked around, didn't know what to do. Can I take your temperature? Well, you most certainly can, darling. That's not evasive at all. Yeah. She sent me in to go work on the machine. And guess what? 3 hours later, I had the fucking thing going and running and working properly. Mind you, almost 2 hours of that time, I have to, well, maybe an hour and a half of that time was actually the part sitting in a chemical bath to wash out all the calcium so that the part would function properly again. And I knew that was the problem before I even went. That's why I took 2 jugs of delimer with me. Like I said, I was on this site before. I already knew what was going on. Then I couldn't even believe that the other technician gave up. It was basically a matter of 4 bolts. And yeah, that was it. And everything just fell apart for me.
There's this comic strip that I read a long time ago about it's about a paintball range in Alaska, and this kid comes in and says he's been having a bit of trouble with his paintball marker, and the tech says, okay, let's take a look at it. In the next panel, it's completely disassembled on the bench, and the kid says, how'd you do that? And the tech says, do what? And he'd been working paintball for like probably 20, 30, 40 years. It's just I've seen these guys, like, you just, some of this thing that you can't figure out, and in the blink of an eye, they've got it apart, fixed it. It's like almost before you know.
Are you kidding? That shit happens to me all the time. And then I'm like, oh, God damn it. People turn to me. It's like, well, what did you do? And I'm like, seriously? I can't explain this shit. I said, all I know is that I started over here and it wasn't doing what I wanted it to be doing. So I followed the path over to here and I found what it wasn't doing to make this. I just do. I just do. And then, of course, I always, a friend of mine once said one time when we were in college together, he was like, fucking used to laugh at one of the teachers. He was like, man, that guy is so incompetent. I commented one time because he was all thumbs in the shop. And my buddy he's like, hey, it was those who do, those who can't teach. And he was looking at me, he was like, Crow, you will probably never be a teacher. Because he just knew that he worked with me so much in the shop that most of the time he would just like, he would like try to get me to explain what we're doing. And I'd just be like, oh, God damn it, Mike, it's on the piece of paper. Just read it. Because if I explain this shit, I don't know what to tell you. All I know is that I am here right now and I've got to get this pipe down to there, and how I'm going to do it is all in here, and it's in a language that I can't translate into English. I'm sorry. But I can read it in my mind and the job will get done, and it will get done right. Shit, I did a food trailer, and God love the inspector. I mean, he was a real mechanic. He came and inspected my work, and he almost fell to his knees and wept. It's like, buddy, what's going on? He was like, you designed this whole gas system exactly the way I would. He says, I have never seen this before. And I've been inspecting trailers for the last 4 years. He says, wow. He says, I can't find anything wrong with your system because this is exactly how it's supposed to be done according to the code book. It's like the code book doesn't tell you exactly how it's supposed to be done, but you just follow the code. And that's what I did, and everything was perfect. Like, that the inspector practically wept. I was just like, yeah, me and him are buddies now. Needless to say.
Okay. All righty. Well, we're hitting up on, we're about to hit an hour and a half of runtime, and our signal is still good. So what do you want to do to wind this episode
I'm going to try
up?
to explain a little bit about what Michael's, where we are, what Michael's doing in this battle plan. I mean, I think people find that kind of interesting. I keep trying to, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, some of this shit frightens me. It's like, whoa, I mean, not to the point of PTSD, but sometimes I just sit here and I'm looking at shit on my screen and I'm just like, the world is fucking crazy. I just want the fuck off now. And then Michael's like, no, just hang in there. Yeah, hang in there, buddy.
You ain't
Yeah,
seen nothing yet.
I don't know.
He says you ain't seen nothing yet, I bet. It's like this, let's see. You ever seen, what's the movie? I don't know. But we've all seen a movie where there's this character who is eminently competent, but completely insane. And he takes, he and the straight up guy are often put together, and he's piloting through this, basically almost loses his lunch because of this guy's driving and whatever. And the guy says, wow, that was pretty intense. And then the guy turns in and says, you ain't seen nothing yet.
I think that
and I know, Anyway, go ahead.
Well, we ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, the thing that still echoes in my mind is something that Kim Clement said, and it was just like, and it just stuck with me. And that is that at some point, Kim Clement predicted that there will be a last Christmas. And after that, Christmas will never be celebrated the same way again. Christmas will actually mean something. And I'm looking around at the supply chain issues and everything that's going on, and I'm thinking to myself, it's like retailers are telling people, it's like, it's not about saving up to buy, it's about just being able to buy it, because they expect such a shortage on everything that there won't be any traditional Christmas. It's just, there won't be anything. There's nothing coming in. I mean, so China, like, there's a lot of fucked up shit going on in China right now. And I don't understand what the hell's going on in China, because right now China is going through an energy shortage. And it's just like, where did that come from? I mean, yeah, it's like, okay, you've got a pipeline to Russia. I mean, so you've got energy coming in there. It's like you're pulling oil out of the Middle East, and they're selling it to you cheap, and you've got power plants all over the place, hydroelectric. I mean, China is like the capital of the world for hydroelectric plants and also coal-fired plants. But they've got all of this energy being produced, and it's like, you still ain't have enough? What's going on in China that they have an energy shortage that doesn't allow them to take that energy away from all the billboards lit up in Beijing, and have that power redirected to the factories? It's like there really isn't any shortage in China. It's like, if you believe like what you see in the movies, lights and billboards everywhere, shut all that shit off and redirect it to your factories. But that's the excuse that China has right now. It's like, well, we can't run our factories because we have an energy shortage. Well, I'm sorry, but I think China's full of shit. I think that they're doing this shit on purpose. But why are they doing it on purpose? Well, there's something else that happened that nobody seems to think about. Trump and Melania dined in the Forbidden City. Nobody goes into the Forbidden City. I mean, I don't even think the communist leaders go into the Forbidden City. But yet, Trump and Melania dined in the Forbidden City. What the fuck? Explain that one to me. It's like, so I mean, what kind of conversation happened in there? Because I'll guarantee you that there was no surveillance devices in that city. I mean, it's got nothing, no 21st century technology. That's probably why it was chosen. But at the same time, it's like, nobody's allowed in the Forbidden City. That's why it's called the Forbidden City. And traditionally, like I said, even communist leaders avoided going to the Forbidden City. Why? And yeah, what's there and what was talked about. And then I see what's going on now. It's like China has created a energy source shortage within its own country. How and why did that happen? It doesn't make any sense. So there's a ton of things that are starting to make sense now if you look at it in a different way. And so this is so Michael is putting the pressure on everybody, because I truly believe that this is the separating of the wheat from the chaff. This is such a confused planet that even Michael doesn't know which one of us are like righteous and which one of us which one of us is not. Who's being truthful and who's not, because this is a planet of lies. We are steeped in lies. We are steeped in sin. I mean, they like, wasn't kidding. I mean, we are literally born in sin. Problem is people don't understand what sin is. What sin is sin. The definition of sin is denial of reality. We are born denying reality. That is what the Son of Man meant when he said all men and women and everything in between are born in sin. We are born denying our reality. Why? Well, one reason why we are born denying our reality is look at how we are born. Kicking and screaming in a freezing cold room. Oh, you're like, oh, no. Birthing rooms are warm. Not to a newborn baby, they aren't. It's like fucking you just dumped that kid in ice water compared to the warmth of his mother's womb. The fucking birthing room is a fucking deep freeze. It's like, so yeah, I can see how a person might deny reality from that experience. It's like so much shock going on in your brain. It's like, I don't want to be here. And so, boom, you're fucking, half of your subconscious takes a hike. And so you're not even a full, complete person. But there is a proper way for giving birth. And I really wish I knew this when I was like, my kids were being born. But I didn't. I found out many years later. It's something called water babies, where the baby is birthed into a water, and it's got like Epsom salt in it, and the water is a certain temperature so that it's not a shock between its mother's womb and the temperature of the water. It's just like, and they just slide right out. I guess. I mean, I was reading testimony from the women who have had water baby births. Yeah, you pop right out. Nothing to it. Didn't even like, it was like they never even gave birth afterwards. They said everything went back exactly the way it was. Goody for the husband, I guess. And, but, yeah. And also, later on, studies showed that the children that were born as water babies were much more adaptable to life. They acquired skills much easier. So it's like, whoa. So not only did the mother have an easy birth, you ended up with a well-adjusted child that wasn't freaking out all the time. So yeah, that's I mean, why isn't that offered in hospitals? I mean, and it cut like like a hospital stay to like overnight. Just basically you're staying in the hospital as just because it's a convenient place to sleep after giving birth. And then you're walking out the door the next day carrying your baby. No, instead, fucking, we got to do it in like the most horrific and fucking, women screaming and blood flying everywhere. And yeah, and yeah. And after that experience, you're in there for 2 or 3 days, and then you're spending the next 2 weeks just healing up. Yeah. Which one makes sense? In a rational society, every hospital in Canada birthing chamber would be would have a tub for women giving birth. Every hospital. if doctors were following their Hippocratical oath, but they're not. They're following politics, obviously. One more thing, Michael has shown us what's going on in our society. See, Michael is showing us one thing at a time, slowly, over time. We're learning that these institutions that we put our trust in are not trustworthy at all. And when I look back on it, I see it's like, it's one piece at a time. We're not being overwhelmed. That's the best part. It's one little piece at a time, and we're given time to digest it. And in between, it's like, okay, this week we had all of this truth come out. Now you watch next week in mainstream. I will. It's going to be all bullshit, and it's going to be obvious and blatant bullshit. And all it is just another punch in the gut for anybody that put their trust in those institutions. That's all it is. And I feel bad. I mean, trust me, I feel bad for them, because I know that every time a lie is revealed and the person has to accept it, it's a kick in the nuts for sure, because it's another wall of illusion gone. I mean, a movie like The Matrix, we have learned that not everybody is, wants the truth. And, some want to crawl back into the Matrix because it's comfortable, it's easy. I mean, what was it, that spider guy or whoever he was? He was like, put me back in the Matrix, make me rich. I don't want to remember any of this. And I'm like, buddy, if you don't remember it, then how will you know that you made the choice? It's like, you're dead. You're dead. It's like, and I was amazed that nobody would understand that. It's like, if you did what that guy suggested to be done to himself, to be put back in the Matrix, he's essentially dead, because it's our experience and our memories that make us who we are. That's why they're transferable to the thought adjuster. That's how we become the thought adjuster. And we don't notice the difference because we made that choice to be like the Father. Be ye perfect as I am. And so we made that choice, and we remember making that choice. So becoming like the Father is nothing, because I made that choice. We make that choice every day, and then we choose to follow the will of the Father. And you just, eventually, all of your memories are imprinted onto the thought adjuster. You and the thought adjuster are pretty much in sync. So when the final last vestige of time and space is cleaned off of you, going through the experience of going through the Creator, then yeah, technically, it is the thought adjuster, and technically you're dead. Technically. But in reality, you're not dead, because you now are one with the thought adjuster, which is one with God. And yeah, it's basically your hard drive got copied on to the thought adjusters, but it's still your memories. And you still remember making that choice to follow the Father. So it's like, no, I made this choice. Yeah, I understand fully and completely that in the end, everything that I think is myself is gone. All of time and space, that energy, gone. But it's going to be me in the thought adjuster, because they're my memories, my experiences. That's what you are. And without them, you are essentially dead. So what Buddy was asking, buddy Smith, who's part of the Matrix, to do. Essentially, he was asking him to kill him, except he didn't understand that that's what he was saying. But Smith understood it. Smith wasn't stupid. He was a machine. He understood memories. Well, without your memories, you're dead. Oh, okay, then you're basically giving me permission to kill you. Great. If you're willing to believe the bullshit that I can plug you back in, great. He was basically selling him a bridge in Boston. Is that how that goes? And yeah, so there's people like that that don't want to accept reality, and they would crawl back into the matrix in a second because it's comfortable. Fine. Those people won't survive. They will fade away. And what Michael is aiming for in the end is he's aiming for people that have such a mind that holds on to the Father and follow the will of the Father, that those are the only people that are going to be left on this planet. All of the rest are going to be spirit fused, so to speak. And then, I think I said this before, this planet will be populated with people with minds geared towards the eternal Father, which would make sense for a planet that is supposed to be for the eternal Father. Not all planets get thought adjusters. Well, they all get thought adjusters, but not all the beings are confused with the thought adjuster. And yeah, that's what Michael is creating. And it wouldn't surprise me in 1,000 years that the beings on this planet, if we follow the path into light and life, we'll be walking from time and space reality into Michael's reality, the real. It wouldn't surprise me, just back and forth like nothing. And it's just going to be like walking through a room, from one room to another. And that will be the type of beings that will exist. And that will uplift this universe even more. But yeah, Michael's showing us one thing at a time. I'm always excited to see the next thing. But I must admit, this time, seeing the next thing, there was a little bit of time in between. There was a span of time. It's like normally you get to see the next thing like within 2 weeks. This time it was like a month. I was starting to get a little scared that it's like, oh, come on, the plan has to move forward quicker than this. And now this has been a big, huge movement in the plan going forward. And it's still this, Michael's not stupid. Michael's working from the bottom up. So that's the other thing that I pointed out to a buddy of mine. I was like, you know what? I said, people should be thinking. I said, nobody's thinking. Thank fuck Trump let the military do what the military does best and eliminated ISIS within like a very short period of time. Wiped them out completely so that they will never come back. And wiped out the leadership. I said, it's all gone. Nothing to build on. No vacuum left. I said, can you imagine the situation in Afghanistan right now if ISIS still existed? I mean, I was just like, it would be a fucking nightmare. Like, it would have been a real jihad. They would have taken advantage of the situation and they would have invaded Afghanistan and they would have seized all that equipment that was left behind. This may not be a popular point of view, but I'm actually more comfortable with the Taliban having those weapons than I would having ISIS have those weapons. I mean, if I'm choosing between two devils, I would rather deal with the lesser devil because the Taliban is only interested in Afghanistan. They are basically Afghanis fighting for Afghanistan. Okay, I can deal with that. There's another word for people like that. And some people would say that word like, would be freedom fighter. And so that would be one thing. Got to remember, in Star Wars, the rebels were scum. The Empire was beautiful. But we all know that the Empire was evil, and the rebels wanted to bring back the Jedi. So what makes you think our reality isn't much different? I mean, one person's devil is another person's hero. I don't even know. It's like, all I know is that when I look at footage coming out of Afghanistan, the people are not upset at all that the Taliban are in control. Hell, a lot of them are, from what I can see in the footage, everybody's quite happy. Children playing in the street, women in the market. Those are the signs that I look for. It's like, are children playing in the street? If children aren't playing in the street, that means that there's a problem with society, right? Because children should be freely allowed to play. So if that ain't happening, there's a problem with that society. So I see children playing. So I don't see a problem with that society. I mean, whatever they're doing, it works for them. It wouldn't work so good in Canada, but why would we want to judge? Why would we put our standards on another culture? That's just foolish. This is where, like, somebody was saying that, we should be like sending people to Afghanistan to help. And I'm like, no. I said, well, the problem is that the help that we send is not the help they want. I said, what we would be better off doing, I said, is setting up some kind of exchange to where students could come over to Canada, go to one of our universities for like 3 or 4 years, and then go back to Afghanistan. But our government is so fucked up that he'd be like, oh, we'll give him citizenship. It's like, no, we don't give him citizenship. We send him back to his country of origin because the deal would be that he'd be staying on his country's dime. So his country's paying for him. Let him go back to his country and let him relay what he learned. Because here's the kick in the nuts. It's like you send a smart person into another culture, they're going to learn everything about their culture. Then they're going to go back to their culture and they're going to relay that information, but the information that they're going to give their culture is going to be relatable to their culture. Because what you're doing is you're creating bridges. And that's what you want to do. You want to create a bridge between cultures. And the only way to do that is take some of the smartest people from one culture, let them get educated in the other culture, and then have them come back to their culture and be like, okay, yeah, I know they're weird, but they've got a way of doing things that work for them. And it's like, yeah, it seems to weird to us to like stop like, I don't know, half a dozen times a day for prayer. But you know what? It works for them. I mean, they are running their society like that. So it works for them. Let them take our good ideas and let it work for them. I don't understand what the problem is with that. I mean, it seems like we always want to just go in and force our hand. And it doesn't matter how good your intentions are. The second you try to force somebody to do something, they're just like, yeah, fuck no. Ain't happening. I mean, regardless, it doesn't matter. So Michael is herding us down a path. And soon enough, we're going to see. There was a lot of arrests this week, too, that a lot of people didn't know about. And also, not important people, but important enough we're at the manager level now for arrests. Took us a long fucking time to get to this level. Holy shit. So all the minions have been arrested and sentenced. We don't hear about these happening because they're minions. And some of them have been executed, but they all had their day in court. They were found guilty. See you later. So they're done. So we've worked our way through the minions. And what blows my fucking mind about this, it took almost 5 years to work through the minions. Am I right? No, 4 years. It took 4 years to work through the minions. 4 years. Holy shit. That's a lot of cleanup.
But there's a reason why. The example I use is you imagine a pyramid, right, with a base, 100 blocks by 100 blocks, and it's 100 blocks tall. You know, each one's, the next base is 99 blocks, and then 98, and so on, and then there's one block at the very top. And you swipe the base out from under that thing, you got 10,000 square blocks. That's gone. And then you swipe the next, you've got whatever 99 times 99 is, blocks, gone. And it's going to take you X amount of time to get to the top of the pyramid, but every time you swipe it, there's progressively fewer. And you know, if you have to pull the blocks out one by one, each level takes even less time. So it's like an exponential thing. You know how you put I don't know, money in a bank account, or certain in certain games, you start something that grows a
Compound
whatever, and then
interest. Yeah.
right. So it's slow as molasses at the beginning, and then it starts turning up and up and up and up, and after
Exponential.
5 years, you've got double your money or whatever universe whatever bank you're putting it in. It's better than mine if you're doubling your money in 5 years. But anyway, you get the idea.
What Michael has done is Michael has inverted the pyramid, and he's removing one block at a time, starting at the base. 4 years. Let's say it took two years to, let's say it took 2.5 years just to clear the first level, all those minions. So that's 2.5 years, and then we spent another year clearing that one, and then we'll spend 11 months, 9 months, 6 months, 4 months, 2 months, 1 month, and gone. I see what you're saying. It starts to get easier and easier as you come down the levels, until you get to what would be ostensibly the apex of the pyramid, and that's where
I remember a farmer expression where you get down to the short
Mhm.
roads. If you're working a field on an
Yeah.
angle, and you work the field, you keep going, and it seems to take forever, and then you start hitting the angle, and then you turn around and go back to the end, and you turn around, go back, and every time you turn, depending on your angle, you're working that much less of the field each pass.
Until it's all gone, and
then you got nothing, this little triangle and one swipe, and she's done.
So I think that we have made it, finally, we have made it to the manager level. So if you look at it as a army, all the privates are gone, all the enlisted are gone, all the corporals are gone. There's still a few sergeants, but most of them are gone. And we've chewed into the lieutenant rank.
Lieutenant.
They're getting bit at, but there's still quite a few of them. But I would say that they've been probably reduced significantly, and now we're finally at the manager level. And this is where we start to test.
We're about to hit the captains and the majors.
Yes, we're going to hit the
About to hit the captains and the majors.
yeah, we're going to hit the cap. I think we've already hit the captains. I think we hit the captains back in August, and then now it took this long, and now we're starting to chew into the major level. We're still working on different levels at the same time. See, this is like this is where the 3D chess thing comes in that nobody understands. Is that
Yeah, you ever play Mah Jongg? You can look up Mah Jongg. You can watch on YouTube how you can play it on the computer, and you stack it. It's like a pyramid. And let's see, how do you do this? You find pairs of the same symbol, but they have to be near the edges of each layer. Like you could work one layer, and then you could work a lower layer, and then you could work an upper layer, and then you could work a middle layer. I think it's something like that. I don't know the rules anymore. I used to play it on the computer sometimes. But you can look up Mah Jongg.
I think I looked at it once and I was like, fuck no. I was like, no, that's too much. Sudoku is
it's more fun on the computer. I think I have a set of it, but I've never played the physical set. I don't even remember the rules now. But yeah, that's something like what Michael's doing. And then I assume if the plan continues along, we'll have used up the captains and the majors, and then we'll go up into the colonels.
Yeah, you also got to remember a lot of these people are useful idiots. That's the other thing. You got to remember, they're useful idiots. They have no idea what the fuck they're doing. And these are, and if you notice, if you really look closely at the plan, I kid you not, it looks like Michael has purposely made sure that these were the exact type of people that were left in positions of power, were the useful idiots.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I keep thinking about the election that we just had with the federal election. I mean, I shit you not. I watched Trudeau, and I kept on getting the impression that this guy really, really, really fucking wants to lose. He really wants to lose. Like, that is, every time he opened up his mouth, I kept on getting that impression. And so I was like, I think he probably, I mean, I seen him when he came out for his victory. I kid you not, he looked like a man that was weeping. I think that he is in such a shitty position, and there's not a fucking thing he can do about it. Because the guy's a fucking pervert. He taught fucking teenage girls. That is a fucking recipe for horrendous things to take place. And, well, there was a book written about it, and it seems as though there has been. But in this case, if the RCMP are protecting him, there's only one reason why. Said it at the first of this. Because his actions are in line with the crown. It's the only reason why he would have RCMP protection. So if his actions are in line with the crown, what the fuck? I think
that reminds me, what you said about his situation reminds me of a line I came up with. One of my quantum androids arrests somebody, and she tells them, "You'll get a fair trial," and he says, "That's what I'm afraid of."
Yeah, I can believe that. And yeah, and we have the reason why I say it's at the manager's level is because within this week, there were no less than 3 judges revealed for their corruption. And a couple in Canada as well. So it's like, now we're at the judges. These are the manager levels. This is so that you get a sense of how the pyramid is in their world. The judges are managers. And when you think about it, there's a reason why. And they
And a quick aside from my reading of the United States Constitution, there's the text of the Constitution, and then there's notes that explain it a little bit. And I got to the part about impeachment, and it mentioned however many presidents had been impeached at that point in 1969, I think 3 or 4 or something, and 3 times or 4 times as many judges. And I didn't know that. I thought, well, only presidents got impeached. Well, no, they impeach presidents, they impeach judges. I think like Supreme Court justices and maybe other judges can get impeached.
well,
You know, they were impeached about 3 or 4 to 1 over presidents.
actually,
I don't know how many were convicted, but the impeachment rate of judges was quite high.
well, now we've come full circle back to the first part of our conversation, where I was like, there's that redheaded lady that speaks for the White House hasn't read the Constitution, because she sat at that podium saying that states have to do what the federal government says. If not, there'll be consequences. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, bitch? There's a little section in the Constitution that says that whatever powers have not been given to the federal government are regulated to the states or the people.
Correct.
You cannot, I mean, that little bit, okay. This is going to get interesting, because the White House, or the DOJ, is suing Texas for putting in a anti-mandate legislation, and also signing an executive order saying, no, this shit ain't going to fly in Texas. Fuck you and your mandates. So now the DOJ wants to take the Texas Attorney General to court because he's not doing what the federal government says. Now, that is going to leave the Supreme Court to come down to one little paragraph in the Constitution, that one I just recited. How are they going to interpret that paragraph? That will be the interesting part. So just because Washington makes a law and they say the states have to follow it, the real question that the justices have to answer is, there's really only one question that has to be answered. Did Texas give up certain sovereign rights to the federal government to regulate its people? And if the answer to that question is yes, then Governor Satan has broken the law. If the answer is no, then what do you do with a president that signed an executive order ordering the states to have a mandate? What do you do with that? And you got to, and this is the best part. It's a counter, which means the DOJ has filed a suit in the Supreme Court, and so has Texas. So no matter which, so that means that somebody has to be punished. No matter what outcome is for this trial, there is a party that will be punished. It's not a win or lose thing. There has to be a punishing party, because
it's who broke the law. Somebody broke the law.
Yeah.
Let's find out who it is.
Yeah. So it's like, what the fuck's going to happen there now? And that's got to unfold. And then the other problem that you got, and everything is all centered on the United States because it's basically the center of the world and has been for the last 100 years. The military has a problem. Okay, first of all, it's not 40% of the military that refused to take this experimental vax. It's more like 60 or 70%. And that's turning into a problem. And they are being dismissed from the military. Well, guess whose numbers are starting to swell?
National Guard.
Patriot militias.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got militias full of trained Marines who are healthy in mind and body. You don't think that's a problem? And you've got all the dumb fucks left in the Army? Now, an army works well. This is why the Soviet Union fell. This is why all communist regimes eventually fall. Is because an army works well when the soldiers are not micromanaged. There's a reason why you train people for certain tasks and you want them to get good at those tasks so that you can send them out to do a job and you don't have to think twice of whether or not that job is going to get done. You have people that are incompetent, they take their orders literally, and they don't step outside those orders. You've got a problem. You got a recipe, because not only is like half of your team dumb, but the other half is literal in their orders, and they've got the manual memorized. And so every time one of the dumb fucks step out of line, the guy that has the manual memorized is going to remind the dumb fuck that he stepped out of line. So now you got two people that are just busy cluster fucking. Now times that by 1,000. And that's what you'll have for a US military. And meanwhile, all your competent people are in the militias. Now China knows they can't do a land invasion on American soil. And with the swelling ranks happening in the militia, they know that that's off the table completely, because it doesn't matter. I mean, they could have security guards as police officers in Los Angeles, but the second Chinese troops hit the shore, I'll guarantee you within 4 hours, every militia in the United States will be on that beach, and they will have a problem very, very quickly. Because, well, gee, militias are allowed to have different weapons from a private citizen. So they get a special license. But these weapons are generally only used for practice. But we all know that they have stashes scattered around. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Do you remember the movie Tremors? It was these giant underground worms. And it took place in Arizona or Nevada, somewhere in the desert. And let's see, the scene I remember was where this guy, a resident, had this cord, and he was doing something with it, and the guy, either from the city or from somewhere else, he said, "What is that?" And the guy said, "Cannon fuse." And he said, "Well, what do you use that for?" And the guy said, "My cannon." So they had all these guys who were arms aficionados and had heavy earth moving equipment stuff. They were dealing with these big worms, so they just brought their big guns and blasted them.
And the thing is that I have no doubt that there are like stashes of weapon for these militias all over the United States. Because I mean, I look at a lot of members
most
of
likely.
these militias. A lot of these guys have done well in life financially.
Hmm. Yeah.
And some of these guys, they do own heavy equipment and they own construction companies and they're patriots and they're enthusiasts. So it's like, what? Okay. Construction company, heavy equipment, more money than you know that you can't spend the amount of money that you have in a lifetime. You just know you can't. But you also, you're the type of person that doesn't want to live extravagantly because you don't want your neighbors thinking badly of you. And so you remain humble. I had a neighbor like that. I asked him one time, it's like, man, I said, you've had this truck for a long time. He said, I only had this truck for 8 months. I was like, what? I said, I see you driving this truck for years. No. He says, I buy the same truck every year. Brand new, exact color, everything, special ordered from Ford factory. He pays the extra bucks and they keep that color for him. Nobody notices that there's slight changes in the body of the truck, but you know it but it's the same color, so you just assume that he's been driving the same truck for such a long period of time.
Those, those guys are the
Oh, I love
best.
this guy. He was awesome. And yeah, he and I asked him, I was like, why do you do that, Stan? He's like, I don't want the neighbors thinking that we're better than them. Because he wants to go and have coffee with his neighbors and he wants them to think that he's not doing any better than they are. Oh, you know, if you want to assume, but he told me just because, well, people tell me shit that sometimes they probably shouldn't tell me. I mean, I've asked why. I was like, why did you tell me that? I mean, I had this girl, I went on a date one time and she told me all this shit about herself with the first date. And I asked her later, I said, why did you say all that shit? And she was like, I don't know. She says, I don't talk about that stuff, but with you, I can. I was like, oh, great. Oh, that does throw you in the friend zone, by the way. And, but, where was it? Oh, yeah. So we got so this whole Millie thing that happened a few weeks ago, that hasn't gone away. So so the generals are looking at their army being decimated. They're saying that the leadership doesn't care. And and Millie, that whole thing is really borderline treason. It really is. I mean, I've looked at both sides of that and wow. I mean, yeah, okay. It looks like he was just doing his job. And granted, maybe he was. But on the other side of it, it sure looks suspect. But again, if all the protocols were followed, then goody on him. At least he was being smart. But it seems as though certain protocols were not followed.
And it still begs the question: who was he working
Yes.
for?
And at this point, even though it does look like blatant treason, it's like there's enough evidence to show that he could have just been doing his job. So unfortunately,
Because didn't wasn't there something like that with one of Trump's guys? He implicated himself so that he would have to step down so that he could go work for. There was a story I read about a sheriff in Oklahoma who he ran and he won, and all of his um, all of his deputies turned in their resignations, and he was like, "What's going on?" And then somebody explained to him that it's just and then you go and you hire them back, and then he opened all the resignations and looked at them, and most of them were the straightforward, but one of them said, "You can hire me back, or we can pretend like I left, and I will basically be an undercover agent for you." On the surface, okay, like this guy said, "Okay, I don't agree with this sheriff. I don't want to work for him. He's too young, whatever. I'm gone. But in the letter, he had for the sheriff's eyes only. He said, I may deliver you some information from time to time. So I just remember that from the Q post. It was Comey or Ray or not Flynn, one of those guys who allowed himself to be implicated, allowed himself to stand trial and to be whatever removed from his position.
Yes.
It was a show. He let the bad guys think they'd won in his case, but he was still a patriot.
And there's a lot of that I suspect is going on, and especially early on, because again, a lot of foundation was laid as well at the same time. And so because foundation was laid and precedent was set, it not only breaks a legislative law, Michael has put them in a position where they are also breaking universal law. So while we are fighting people are fighting the physical battles out there, Michael has set it up so that the spiritual battle will take care of itself. Because if these fuckers violate universal law, it's automatic obliviation. It's automatic. It's summary judgment, because this was all decided tens of thousands of years ago by the Most Highs, that any creature that chooses evil will have summary judgment if they violate universal law. And that is the sword that hangs over their head, is what that is. And so they know the sword of Odysseus. Yeah, I think. Anyways, so that is what's hanging over their head, and they know it. But Michael has put them in a position to where that sword is going to fall, and it's going to be instant judgment. And
Damocles.
Damocles sword.
Let me just check. I think it's the sword.
Yeah, Damocles sword. That is correct.
Yeah. Took me a minute to remember that.
But anyways,
and we're now at 2:23. Fascinating topic. And we can continue next week.
Yeah, tell everybody the last hour is always the best hour.
We need to wrap it up. Oh no kidding. Yeah. I just got something that I wanted to put in there. There was, and it's almost not a joke exactly, but whatever. There was a guy in, I forget where, but he had, I don't know, 500 military rifles and stuff like that, and then it goes down through a list of states where, in Arizona he'd be a veteran collector, Arkansas he'd be an amateur collector, etc.
Just going around doing shit. What the fuck is this emoji right here?
Which
I don't know. I hit it twice.
That's the care. It's hugging.
Is that what it's doing?
It's I care about
for shit's
this.
sakes.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it now.
It's the I care about this.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that was my curiosity for the day. Anyways.
So there's
Squirrel.
7 of them, I think. There's. Yeah. All right. Well, this is. Are we done? This has been.
And
Peter.
I have Crow.
And this is P&K. Has been P&K Q&A. Thank you for watching.
and have a great evening.
Peace out.